Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So this is going to be the Establishing an Online Presence for Your Firm presentation from Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service. My name is Maxine Roberts. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator here at MVLS, and that basically means that I run our social media accounts, I manage our website content, and kind of all things to do with the computer and the internet fall under that role. And then I have two great panelists with me today, Singleton Matthews, who is from Client First Legal Services.
Hello, everybody.
And then we also have Matthew Bacci from Santoni, Bacci, and Ortega.
Hi, guys.
And both of them are going to help out today as panelists and just provide more context about their websites and how it's been helpful for them to develop social media as well as a website presence for their firms. And they'll be jumping into if there's places where they want to add things or anything like that. So, and also this webinar will be recorded. It's being recorded now, I should say, and the slides will be available afterwards. So if you want to send it to someone or watch it another time, process the information as you will, that will be available going forward. If you have questions, you can either type them in. There's a little questions box, or you can just hold them until the end. Either way, we're going to be addressing questions in the last 15 minutes or so of the presentation, so whichever works for you. And then there will be a very brief survey. It takes like a minute to fill out after, and that's just really helpful for us to know what works for you and what doesn't, and what kind of content you want to see next. So that would be super helpful if you could fill that out, and we would greatly appreciate it. So I'm going to get us started just talking about social media and why it is that you should develop an online presence. Really, it's just a marketing tool that if you're not involving yourself with it, it's a huge missed opportunity to promote you and your colleagues and the great work that you're doing or the services that you have available for people. So if you're not doing it, it's really just, like I said, it's that missed opportunity. It's also a great way to brand yourself. So it's a way that you can set yourself apart from other similar firms or organizations that might be doing the same kind of work. It's a great way to let people know what your values and your thoughts are, because, I mean, like it or not, social media and the internet are here to stay, and they're the way that we communicate now a lot of the time. So we want to not resist that change and just kind of lean into it and, provide those things so that people can see that there's real humans who work at your organization or your firm, and that these are the things you care about, and these are the ways that you can really be an expert in your field. And the more you establish that, the more you're going to be able to recruit people, you're going to be able to build a client base, or whatever your goals are. There's a lot of great things that can come from that. Oh, apparently there's no sound. Is that an issue other people are having?
I can hear you. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
I wonder
okay,
if could any other participants let me know in the question box if they're having issues with sound? Okay, we have someone saying they can hear. Okay, so I think, Emmanuel, you might need to figure out your system a little bit. Okay. All right, and I'm not sure, again, if the weather is going to affect things at all. I really hope it doesn't in terms of internet. But
Right.
if things go out, just let me know, and we'll do our best to troubleshoot. But sometimes when the power goes out, or the internet goes out, I should say, there's, not much we can do coming back from that. So kind of bear with me. Sorry about it if that happens. But yeah, just let me know, and I'll try to look at the questions as we're going to see how people are doing with that. Okay, great. So it looks like majority can hear, so I'm just going to keep going, and then you just let me know if things change. All right. So I was talking about why you should develop an online presence, branding yourself, making a name for your firm, letting people into what your values are, and ultimately all of these things go back to ways that you can reach out to people, you can create connections and build up your client base, recruit people, great place to post job opportunities, all of that great stuff. So getting into sort of how to choose your platform, because there's a lot of different options out there. And I know it can be a little overwhelming, and I should have said this at the beginning, but this is going to be more focused for beginners, and we might be able to do something in the future that's more intermediate, but I just wanted to kind of start from point A for today. And then we can build up from there and answer questions if need be. So start slow is my advice. So you really just, there's a lot of options, but it's best to just pick one and do it really well before you add in other options. Were you going to add something?
No, not yet. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You want to direct one question directly to me? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. So you just want to pick one type of social media and do that really well, because I think it gets really complicated when you're managing multiple platforms. And that's something that I do, but I have a specific role to do that, where it's a huge part of my job. So I manage 4 different accounts, or I guess three different accounts. And I think that's great if you have someone designated to do that. But if you're kind of running ad hoc and maybe you're a smaller shop place, that might not be the most approachable way to do things. So I would actually recommend starting with Facebook, because it's really good for beginners. It might be intimidating at first, but it's pretty easy to figure things out in terms of how to post things or how to interact with people. Most people already have an account, so it's a little bit easier to build that following. And I call it like catch-all content, because there's really not anything that you shouldn't post on Facebook apart from the obvious. But in terms of like, you know, should I post this article, or can I post this picture, or can I post this video? The answer is usually yes with Facebook. So I think that's a really good place to start, because it's a forgiving platform. And then we have LinkedIn. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I definitely agree with you. Facebook is how I started. I mean, it, started with, just one post when I had come out of just one successful court appearance. And at that point, I didn't even think that I would actually even be using it as marketing. And, it had gotten so many likes, I realized, geez, people are actually watching the things that people do on Facebook. So, I think that especially since you probably already have, a good base, so you're not reaching out to people asking them to follow you. So
exactly.
Facebook definitely is, I would say, a great place to start. I would want to throw in that there are some apps, though, that are actually really helpful in communicating or relaying everything that you do on one social media site to another. And so if, you aren't very familiar with it, there are some apps like Hootsuite that are really good at showing you how you can, sort of translate or move things from one place to another. So it actually kind of, lessens the amount of work you would have to do in managing all those platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing you read my mind, because Hootsuite's one of my favorite options for management. I have a slide talking more about that soon, but Hootsuite's great. And it's, again, like if you do want to go the route of having multiple accounts, it's really, really, saves so much time in terms of planning things, and especially getting other colleagues you might be working with on the same page. So that's a great point. All right, so then LinkedIn, another great option. I find it's a little less user-friendly. Sometimes there's even times where I'm not even totally sure how to share something. It's a little clunky. They're still kind of getting it into a good place to work with other apps well, whereas Facebook and Twitter have that kind of figured out now. It centers on networking and professional relationships, so it's really all about work, whereas Facebook has kind of the crossroads. And it's a great place to promote training or job opportunities. And this is also a great place to put what I call, or what's called, thought leader content. And thought leader content is, like I was saying before, it's this way that you establish yourself as an expert in this field, and you say, you demonstrate the ways that this is why you should come to me and my firm for all things family law, or, insert whatever your expertise is in the legal field or whatever field it is that you're in. So that's a really great option if you want to go a specific direction. And it can be a good complement to Facebook once you kind of get that mastered. And then another option is Twitter. Twitter is a really great place for firing off quick thoughts. It has a character limit, whereas Facebook and LinkedIn don't. So obviously not a great place for longer form content. But it's a great way to engage with other firms or organizations, because you can just retweet or you can comment. And it's a really great, the way you would build your following with that is really through building partnerships and relationships with other organizations or firms, because then it shows up in other people's feeds. And that's really great. I'm not going to talk about Instagram today because it's a little more in-depth, and I don't know if it's the best fit for most people who might have a firm or an organization.
Oh, I'm so hurt.
Personally, Instagram is my favorite on a personal level, but I think it's a little harder to, I think that would be for our next presentation, maybe. We can regroup on that. And then and just a little note on logistics. If you create you have to have a social media account with LinkedIn and Facebook in order to manage the page that your firm or organization would be on. So a huge recommendation that helped me a lot when I first started here is that you should make a quote unquote fake account that's like your work account. Because personally, I don't love to have my personal account linked to my work page. So for me, it was great to have this other account. Some of my coworkers do this as well, and it's just a great way to get more involved without kind of involving all of the other stuff that's like more private or, things like that. So that's a recommendation you might want to consider if you're opening up a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page for the first time. Twitter, you can just start an account. It doesn't have to be managed by a person. So going into your first post. Again, this is just basics because I want to meet everyone where they are today. For Facebook, this is a quick look at how you would create a post if you never have before. So there's two ways. So you can see that this is being managed by me, Maxine, my little picture. So if I want to make a post, I'm not going to put it here where you see my name and it says make a post, because that would go to my, my work Facebook, and we want it to go to the MBLS page. So what I would do instead is click this little arrow in the upper right-hand corner, or you could go to this shortcut for groups that's over here, and you click there, and there's that drop down. You see the MBLS page. I go there. Once you're there, you can create the post. It's right there the same way, but you'll see that it'll, have your organization's branding. It's really great to upload a picture of your logo, a picture of your staff, something like that, so that people know immediately that that's you. So as you can see, I just highlighted create posts, or I guess I can point with my mouse. Create post right here. You can add a picture if you want. We'll talk more about pictures. They're really important. You can upload a picture through that, or you can click and drag it onto here from your desktop. And here you can just click publish, and then there you have it. It'll be there on your feed on your page. And for LinkedIn, it's very similar. You click this little, again, you see that this is me, my personal LinkedIn, and then you click this arrow, company, Maryland Volunteer Lawyers, click that, and then that will take you to your page. And then you can see a bunch of things here that I've highlighted. So you would type here, put your copy in this box, and post. This is where you can upload a photo or a video. And then it also has kind of a quick look at your engagement for the last 7 days, which I think is really helpful to just get a snapshot view of what's going on. And then you can click view more analytics for more information. And you'll see that this is the admin view. So this is a very unique view that only applies to you as the admin. But if you click member view, then you can see what everyone else sees as the community member. And then lastly, we have Twitter. And Twitter is, I think, one of the easiest ones to use because it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of bells and whistles, not a lot of things to remember. So you would just, this box is just sitting here when you click your account over here. You're just going to enter your copy, hit tweet. I have this buffer button, but you probably won't just because I have the program buffer. And then if you want to look at your notifications, you click there. So that's just a little overview of how to create posts on those different platforms. And then for following accounts, I just wanted to start here because if you haven't built up a following yet, or you're looking to get more followers, build your audience in some way, a really great tip is to follow other accounts. That's one of the best things you can do. So, and I always start with social media accounts that are similar to ours. So when I started here, I made sure to look at what we were currently following, making sure that we were following all of the local legal services organizations, everything like that, all of our community partners, because you want to be linked with them. And the reason it's so important is that, like I said before, anytime you mention them or post about them, it shows up on their page as well. So that gets your name out there. And it also shows that your collaboration and partnership are important to you, which are great values to showcase. And then also you can build great relationships with these organizations that might lead to something really great in terms of collaboration in the future. That could build client bases for both of you, or, you know, what have you. So you want to interact with their content. That means liking, sharing, commenting. That also gets you showing up in other feeds. And then I also mentioned tagging, but I wanted to specify how that works. So the way that you tag another organization or firm or location in your posts is you click your @ button, so that's Shift-2. And then once you have the @ button there, you just type the first few letters, and then I usually wait for Facebook or LinkedIn to catch up with me a little. So if I click @ and I'm typing in Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service, usually by the time I get to like MAR, I'll have a bunch of options pop up. And then you click the one that you want to link there. So it's really good to make sure you're linking the correct one, but it's a huge thing that you should always tag other organizations. And people as well, but you should make sure that people want to be tagged first. It's always good to get consent on that. But that's a huge thing that has helped us a lot. So in terms of developing a strategy, because you do want to kind of sit down, think about what your goals and objectives are before you get much further into the process. So a little brainstorming, you can ask yourself these questions. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? In an ideal setting, are you trying to build a network, showcase your expertise, grow your client base? So it could be lots of other things too, obviously, but just thinking about what your goal is and how you want to get there. And the second thing is to really think about who makes up your target audience, who are your constituents. So for us, we have kind of two groups. We have our clients and prospective clients, and then we have our volunteers and our prospective volunteers. So those are, as in my role at least, as the communications and outreach coordinator, I'm always thinking about those two groups and kind of what their values are, what appeals to them, and how to best connect with them on the issues that I see that they care about based off of our analytics and conversations that I have and things like that. So I think this is, even if you don't write it down, even if you just think it over, I think this is a great thing to do to make sure that you're honoring why you came there in the first place.
Maxine, I think that the target audience also is very important, and it has been for us with figuring out what social media platform to focus on as well, because you know, in a prior iteration of my life, I was, you know, at a larger firm that was looking for business clients, and that led me to push LinkedIn and content on LinkedIn. And then, you know, for the past several years, having a small firm looking for individual clients and, you know, to have referral relationships with other attorneys, it's switched over to more Facebook, website, Twitter.
No, that's
just depending on, like, you know, who are you going after, and you know, and staying on brand and point.
Yeah. No, it's a perfect segue, because you have to figure out where your different audiences hang out. Because like you're saying, you won't know it immediately. It takes time to develop that, which is exactly what you were highlighting in your story, I think, is that over time you kind of see, oh, it looks like, you know, clients really like Facebook, but on Twitter, that's where I have the most interactions with similarly aligned organizations, or, you know, whatever works out.
Right.
So I think that's a really good thing to think about. And then once you notice those trends, adjust your content according to that. And that might have to do with your posting style, the frequency. I know I definitely post less on LinkedIn versus Facebook, where we post a lot. So, you know, balancing things out, and also taking the time to reevaluate after some time's passed, because things do change and algorithms are always updating, which is a whole nother conversation. But it takes trial and error. But like our panelists are saying, there's definitely a way that you can get to that balance. So just a little bit about what makes a successful social media post. You always want to have photos, especially photos of people whenever possible, which I know can be hard because sometimes there's legal concepts that really aren't easy to attach people to, but whenever possible, that's a great thing to do. Video is really highly prioritized by Facebook. the way that things work now is that the more video you have, the more those posts are quote unquote prioritized by Facebook. So they'll show up sooner, you'll get better engagement. And people also nowadays prefer, it seems, to get their information via short videos rather than reading. So that's something important to think about as well. Maybe less copy, more photo and video, more graphic elements at least. Like I said, tagging any outside organizations, publications, or locations. The more you tag, the more visible you are. And you always want to have a really clear call to action. So the call to action is, it could be a link to click through to with more info there. It could be a number that they should call. Maybe it's, you know, to go and get services from your firm. Whatever that is, you always want to make sure that you have that call to action very clearly in the copy or in the image if it's a graphic element. And then for creating the content, there's a lot of different options you have. One that always does well is kind of behind the scenes content. So, you know, thinking about what you can post about day in the life. I remember we did something on our website about a day in the life of a paralegal here. So it's like 9 a.m., Makisha gets here. What does she do first? She takes the call, da, da, da. So really walking people through what it's like to be in our shoes, that always tends to do well. Something we've done since I started here, and this has been great just with a lot of my colleagues, they've helped me do this, but we've shifted our office culture to center on our online presence. So it's now like a given that, you know, if Ellen has a presentation, she knows she's going to have someone take her photo while she's speaking and then send that to me. So it's kind of like a no-brainer at this point that everyone's just in agreement that we're going to do this. So it does take some buy-in from your staff, but that has been super helpful to me in terms of making sure we have a lot of information about what we're doing and that we're sharing that with people so that they know all the different kinds of things we care about and everything that we're doing. And then also another great thing is to share articles related to the issues that your firm or organization addresses. This is back to the whole thought leader thing. So, you know, if we see an article that's about water bills, we care a lot about water bills and our clients having to deal with those issues. So, you know, we'll repost that. We'll share it from someone else maybe. You could do a double feature here and share it from a community partnership you have if they post it, and then say like, you know, we both care about this issue. Here's why. Call to action. And that's a great way to provide your take, relate it back to your work or the partnership that you have, and then also provide that way that people can take action. And I will have these presentation slides for you, like I said, but these are some great resources for stock images. So, because I know it's hard to always have a photo of people, especially with the legal field and, you know, client confidentiality and all of that great stuff. You can't always post pictures of the people that you want to. So it's good to represent people through stock images if you can. All right, so now we're going to get into kind of what Singleton was bringing us to earlier, which is scheduling your social media. Because I'm sure both Matt and Singleton could talk more about how much time it can take to actually do this. And like I was saying before, my whole role is dedicated to this, but not everyone has the capacity for that. So if you are in a different kind of situation where you don't have someone who's kind of the go-to on that, it could be hard to find the time, but I have some suggestions how you might be able to get started with that. So if you're just starting out, you only have a Facebook, it's really easy to just use the scheduling option through Facebook. It's completely free and it's built in. So like I showed you before, when you're creating that post and you're about to click publish, you can also click this little arrow for a drop down and then click schedule. So that will lead you to another screen where it asks you what date and time you would like to post that. And you can schedule it down to the second pretty much. And that's a really great tool to use if you're just managing one. And then like Singleton was saying, if you have, you know, you're managing LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, you can manage all of those on one page through what's called a social media management platform. And I only showed you free options. There are paid versions of all of these that offer more options, bigger reach, all of those kinds of things. But if you're just starting out, the free ones will be absolutely usable and meet your needs totally. Hootsuite is my personal favorite. it shows like categories. So it has columns or rows with each different thing. So you can actually see, oh, on this date, I'm going to do this, and this is over here. And it's really helpful to see everything in a visual display. So those are some options there. And then another option you can have is a content calendar. So we moved more into the scheduling part, and that kind of became our content calendar, but you have to kind of mix and match based on what your needs are and you know, what your work style is. So what works for me might not work best for you. But this is a free one. It's from Hootsuite. The link is here in case you want to download it, but it's just like a Google Sheets, Excel sheet kind of thing. It helps you collaborate with your coworkers. It creates a visual so you can see what your content ratio is actually looking like. And I'll talk a little bit about content ratio as well, but this is just a good example from theirs. So content ratios, the rule of thirds. They say that 1/3 of your content promotes your business or generates leads. Then 1/3 comes from other sources that align with your business. So that would be like the community partners. It might be that Daily Record article or that Baltimore Sun article that really encapsulated something that you've been trying to say that you want to share with people. And then 1/3 of the content engages with your followers directly, either through answering questions, responding to comments, or reporting to user-generated content. So that could be kind of more the customer service route. So you want to make sure you're kind of honoring that, because you don't just want to come to social media when you're trying to sell or promote a product. You also want to have evergreen content. That evergreen meaning that it never goes bad and it's always available and it's never out of date. So 80% helpful and interesting content, and then 20% content that's selling your product. And I use selling loosely because that might not be your situation. And this is from Hootsuite's blog as well, so you can look at more of that there. But I found this really helpful, and it kind of crystallized what I've been thinking about. So that's kind of the overview on social media. I'm going to touch very briefly on analytics, and then we're going to head into our Q&A.
Sure.
So for analytics, there's a lot of ways, and again, I know this sounds time-consuming already, but I swear it doesn't have to be. There's ways that you can look at how your posts are performing for free, just built in through the social media channels that you're using. And this is the most important way, in my opinion, to figure out what's working and what isn't. Because really, back to that slide about brainstorming, you want your target audience to be the most important part, and they're really going to drive the content in terms of what works and what doesn't. So this is an example from Facebook, since that's kind of what we're focusing on today. Facebook calls this insights. So as you can see, we have all these different categories up here. They mean different things. Followers are the people who, as you might guess, follow your account. They're seeing your feed every day. You know, they've bought in. They're part of your audience. Likes, that is the number of people who have liked your page. It's a little confusing because it seems like it would be the posts themselves, but it's actually the page. And then reach, that's the number of people who saw your posts or your page on their feed as they're scrolling past. So that doesn't mean that these people necessarily clicked or interacted with the post, but that means that they saw it. So you do want to have a good reach, but of course the actual interactions are maybe more valuable in the total scheme of things. So my favorite part is to look at the posts. So I've highlighted this, and I'm showing kind of a screenshot of what ours looked like a few days ago. So you can see that it has the copy, it has the date, the time, as well as the reach over here. The post clicks are the blue bar, and then the reactions, comments, shares are the pink. And I wanted to show this to kind of explain a little bit about how you can analyze this information, because it can be a little overwhelming to just look at. But an example is that this post from November 9th, where we were talking about our executive director, Bonnie Sullivan, being recognized by the Daily Record as a great CEO, we tagged Bonnie, who has a really strong social media following, and then we also tagged the Daily Record. Like I said, you always want to mention everyone. So because we mentioned those two groups, Bonnie and the Daily Record, we have this crazy reach of 806, and then much more in terms of reactions, comments, and shares over here, and post clicks. And that's, again, because of those two huge followings. So it's really, that's just to kind of demonstrate the importance of tagging, and also to show that, you know, that's a way that you can analyze that information. And then over here, we have this, we have a constant contact account. So when we send out our email marketing campaigns, we will link our social media so that it sends a post that is the same kind of copy and information to our Facebook and Twitter. And I highlighted this one because I noticed that this one actually did a little bit better than I'm used to, because I've been noticing that the constant contact linked posts don't always perform as well as some of our organic content. So I just wanted to showcase that as well, in terms of noticing different little trends and changes so that you can continue to tweak your content and pay attention to those things. Oh. And again, this is the best way to see how successful your posts are with your target audience. And it should bring you back to that original question of what do you want to accomplish and how do you want to do it? So always reevaluating and keeping that shift going. And I just wanted to share some examples, just because I know some of it could be a little nebulous. So for sharing articles, this is an example. The Daily Record Editorial Advisory Board shared a piece on Maryland expungement law and how it's time to review those. So we shared that article because that's an issue that's near and dear to us. And then getting staff involved, this is a great example. Ellen recently spoke at a press conference that was held by Senator Cardin because he's doing new legislation for water infrastructure, and she was able to share our client stories there, which is great. And then luckily, Amy and our other coworkers were there to take video and share that with me. So that was a great way to get our staff involved and make sure that they were helping me out like that. And then I didn't touch on this too much, but you always want to direct traffic back to your website. I'm sure that Singleton and Matt both have experience with that, but you always want to be getting more traffic to your website, highlighting website initiatives and everything like that. And this is the post I was talking about. I don't know why her picture is there twice, but it did well regardless. So you always want to tag related people and publications there, and then make sure that you actually provide the link. So that's the call to action, right, is read more about this award here. And this is a really great tool, is that it always seems like no matter what day it is, it's National Something Day. Every time I look up, it's something different. So this is a great example. Beginning of November, it was Love Your Lawyer Day, which I've never heard of, but it's really important to get involved with things like that and tap into it if you can, because that means that there's a hashtag going. That means there's conversations happening around that, and people have a extra bit of attention they're paying to that area. So that's a great thing to link up with when you can. So that covers my part with social media, analytics, examples. So now I want to hear more from Singleton and Matt from their experiences. So this is just a little bit more. This is the Client First Legal Services website. It's very pretty. It's very easy to interact with. And that's their link.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah, no, I was impressed. I liked the big image. Looks good on my screen. And then we have, and it's cool too because they're very different aesthetics. So then we have the Santoni, Bocci, and Ortega website, which has a really great kind of branding with this wolf imagery, and that's a cool characterization as well. So I just wanted to showcase that too. But
yeah, so what?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, and I guess it fits the first question here, but
Sure.
for the website, you know, I think sitting down and really thinking about what you're trying to convey is important. You know, we've had some folks that are a little bit more, you know, on the reserved side are like, wow, that's really, it's really aggressive to have like a wolf on your, but we made that decision intentionally, and so I think putting some thought into it, it's like that is important, and and we created our own website using Squarespace that also has analytics and, has its own analytics that you can then track, what blog posts are doing better than others and who's actually clicking through to your, attorney bios, things like that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, the analytics are really good on that as well.
Awesome. So you're using the blog feature. What is that like?
It's like anything. I think the hardest thing and you've hit on this a couple times, are, we're a three lawyer firm. We do not have someone who is dedicated to our social media, as far as that being their position. So creating the content is probably the biggest hurdle that we have, where, and it helps to create, I think, some accountability, where you had shown the slide where you say we're going to have a plan, and so we do try to have, people take of the three of us rotating through, you're going to do a Facebook post this week, and you're going to draft something for the blog, and the content doesn't have to be long, it just has to be on point.
Right.
So I think people get wrapped up in, the blog, and it's got to be this like really and I've done this too, it's got to be really this impressive piece of work, when really, if the point is you want to get across that we're working with, I don't know, warranty claims, well, then you have to just use the words warranty, come up with something that says, oh, there's a new piece of legislation that's coming out, and it's relating to consumer warranties on automobiles, and here's a few thoughts on that, click through.
Right. No, that's so good. I think it's really what you're hitting on is that you want to be part of the conversation. So if there's new legislation and it's involving the kind of work that your firm's doing, you want to be in the forefront of that, saying, heads up, this is happening, this is our take on it, or this is how it might affect your clients. So I think that's great.
I think that's an easy one for lawyers to cue on, is legislation that affects their potential client or their client base.
Right, and thinking about target audience, that's something that your constituents care about. So that's really great.
Yep.
Singleton, what was your kind of experience getting started?
Well, so when I started, I was a little bit different, as I was a solo practitioner, and, not having, a lot of experience and only being about a year in, I realized that my market was going to be a little bit different. And in fact, what I do is somewhat different, in that not only do I represent clients in criminal defense, but I also provide coverage to solo practitioners and small firms that don't have associates. And so one of the things you were talking about earlier is how it's great to, set up a separate Facebook page. And one of the things that I wound up doing, and Hootsuite was very helpful in this, was that while I do have a Facebook page just for my practice, Hootsuite will also share those things to my personal page, because so many of my friends are attorneys who wind up needing my services. And so, like Matt was saying, how, if there's something that your practice, wants to focus on, you want people to know, we do trust in estates, or we do this. One of the things that we're really focused on in our posts is that everything that we will do for a client is going to be mentioned in every single post. And so because we are in court almost every day, we make it our business to almost have a post every day about something good that's happened with one of our clients. And so the hashtags that we wind up putting in them, for instance, case dismissed. I know that was something that, looking at the analytics, and you're right, the analytics are very important, is that, generally in criminal practice, when a case is dismissed, all lawyers know that is null pros. And so for about a month, all of our hashtags had null pros in them. And I couldn't understand, It didn't seem like a lot of people were following or interested. But once we changed that to case dismissed, then people saw, oh, well, so that's what they're doing. They got someone's case dismissed. That sounds great.
Right.
And what you're posting is very important, especially the terminology, because we don't just market to, lawyers, but we're also marketing to people who have never had any interaction with the criminal justice system or sometimes the court in general. So they need to see in, very layman's terms, this is what we do. We can represent you in an accident lawyer. We can represent you in family law lawyer. We do this in criminal. We're criminal lawyers. And so whatever that specific thing we do for a client, along with the videos that we would post on Facebook, we make sure that all of those hashtags are in there, because a lot of people and other businesses are following those. So I found that was very helpful, and even just building our following, not just for regular clients, but for our business clients as well.
Yeah, no, you're doing really great things with that, because I think that goes back to the whole idea of just like continuing, like in a way, I mean, no work is ever done, but your social media work's never really done because you're always reevaluating what's going on. So looking at that hashtag and rethinking it and saying, I don't know that this is the most accessible hashtag. That's a great thing to do, because then you've strengthened your message through that. I didn't mean to do that. All right, so moving forward, we talked a little bit about this already, but what has your experience been like using different forms of social media?
I can go first. I think that for a practice like mine, which has only been in existence for going on 3 years now, it has been amazing. It's great because what we do, we're in competition with people that have been doing this for 25 to 30 years. And when I first started, I didn't know what I was going to do to be able to, put myself out there for people to know that, I was doing this and I was, and I was good at it. And so how I actually wound up getting started is with a friend that was an attorney, and he had been practicing a lot longer than me. And he had said, whenever you see one of those annoying lawyer commercials on TV, they say that they've won millions of dollars for their clients, but you don't know if they won $999,000 for one client and won $20 for the rest of their clients. All you know is that you see them all the time and that they win. And if everybody has that image that you can present yourself as winning and doing well for your clients all the time, then people will start to see that. And so I think that using Facebook, which is what I started with, was extremely helpful when I first started out in getting clients, because there were so many people who followed me personally that had no idea that I had even become an attorney. And so when then people started to see these posts, of me with clients outside of the court, and they said, oh, wow, he's got a case dismissed, he got a case dismissed. And I mean, just lawyer to lawyer, it doesn't, we all know that, a case can be dismissed because somebody forgot to come to court. But, to the people that we're marketing to, all they are seeing is success, and they see it on a daily basis. And because then that was sort of my intention. I know what you said earlier about, you want to have a mission, or what are you trying to accomplish when you post on Facebook? And for my practice, what we're trying to show to, potential clients, and also to our potential attorneys that are clients, that every day we do something right for our clients, whether it's one that we represent directly or whether it's a client we're representing through another practice. So every day when you go on Facebook, you will see that client first did something well. And so far, I think that's been extremely helpful, especially for, an emerging market that I look at, is that, there are a lot of people who have not had any interaction with the legal process, and criminal law, especially, things happen very quickly. So I remember, I think one of the very first murder cases I had, this family just happened to know somebody who was friends with me on Facebook and saw, oh, he got a case dismissed. And that was how I had actually gotten one of my first murder cases, within a year and a half of practicing, because
Wow.
they didn't know any other attorneys. They didn't
Right.
know it. So many people are faced with that situation, especially in, the world of private practice where there are smaller firms or solo practitioners. A lot of people just don't know about us. But if you have a strong base, of followers in social media, all it takes is one. It takes one person to see, oh, Singleton does that. And whether it's, a murder or a traffic ticket, it's what I try to explain to my associates now is that a judge told me once that a business card only costs 3 cents to make, but if the right person picks it up, it'd be worth $1 million. So I tell them every post is completely free. I'll do you one better. It's free. It doesn't cost us anything. But if the right person looks at it, it could be $1 million. So that's been very helpful for us to look at everything that way, that every time we do something in court, somebody should know about it, because that may be the day that somebody is looking for a lawyer, or somebody that they know on Facebook is looking for a lawyer, and we should be there.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook helps us do that.
No, I think that's awesome. So we kind of already touched on some of these other questions. I feel like we've addressed both of these, and if people have more questions about these, they can always ask during the Q&A. But we do have a last question that I would really like to pose to you both, because it's something that I think a lot of people are afraid of in terms of putting yourself out there and developing these channels, is that you're also opening yourself up for some criticism. So how do you address negative comments or reviews, and is this something you've experienced, and how do you navigate that, because it's a little sticky sometimes?
So I think that, one of the things, so there's all these different, platforms, websites, you can have, you've got Avvo, you've got your website, you've got, Yelp, Google, whatever. So there's an opportunity to get both positive and negative comments. I think first to flip the question a little bit, how to deal with it. One is, there's nothing wrong with asking clients who are happy with you to provide a good review. That you've done a good job for them. You helped them with X issue. Get the good out, because waiting around and then having one negative comment be the only one on a particular site, I think that your best defense is kind of the offense of having a bunch of people that you have helped say, these people helped me, and it was it was a good result or a great result, or that they really care. I mean, I think those are the kind of things that people have said about us that I think kind of the next person sees. I think the one time we received something that wasn't positive, it was something that surprised us. So I think, how do you deal with it? Like most things, it's better just to deal with things head on, and to say, it related to timing from call-in intake to a call back. So we addressed kind of internally, it was, okay, this was a criticism somebody had about how long it took us to do an intake and to get back to them. So let's work on that, and just address it head on and apologize to someone if you can, and move forward. That, I don't know.
No, I think that's great.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's like seeing it as a customer service opportunity.
Yeah, look, not everyone's going to always be, you can't literally make everyone happy no matter what you do, but we haven't suffered kind of a devastating what we would consider, outrageous, unfair kind of negative comment.
I have.
Have you? Okay, go. All right. Good. I mean, not good, but you have experience.
But it was only actually to just second what you had said about, making sure that the clients that are happy, are, giving you that good feedback. I think that's very important because, once, when you're doing a good job, like it said every day, that our focus with our internet presence and social media is to show the world that every day we are doing something good for our clients. And I know that, on one social media, well, it's not really social media, but on Ava, we had one client who was unhappy with the result, and what I do with criminal law, I mean, we really have, two results. You either, are going to jail or you're not. And so sometimes, we do have some clients that are not necessarily happy with their result. And sometimes we will get a review that, someone says, oh, we thought this should have happened, and then this didn't, and then this didn't. And, rather, it is good to, apologize and say, we're sorry that you felt this way. But at the same time, I think that if you have enough positive reviews out there, it really works to negate, the one that'll be out there sort of like an outlier. So I know that I'd worried in my social media that, somebody had given me like a 1-star rating and wrote this gigantic long paragraph about what a bad lawyer I was, but it was stuck in between one person who literally said the opposite of everything that this one particular client was saying, and the next comment on top of that negative review, same thing. And so It really starts to look like an outlier, if, McDonald's has served 88 billion people and, 100 people say they don't like the hamburgers there, well, then I think reasonable people can see that, all right, there are always going to be outliers. Not everybody is going to be happy with everything, like Matt was saying. But if you keep up, and for us, it really is sort of a bombardment effect that every day you'll see that we are doing something well for somebody, that'll really go a long way in dealing with the negative comments or reviews.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So thank you so much for answering my questions. Now I want to kind of open it up. Open it up for everyone else's questions. Before I do that, I just wanted to show a couple of great resources that we have. I've already gotten some questions from people about the recording for the training. We have this new resource on our website where you can go and look at all of our recorded trainings, not just this one, but anything from any area. We have our pro bono portal where it's super easy to take cases. You can apply to be a volunteer with us, which is always great, and we really appreciate that. And we also have our attorney resources page, and just have all kinds of helpful forms. And if you have a question, that's a great place to start. All right. Now, if anyone watching has any sort of question about, developing a website, problems with analytics, experiences with Facebook, anything of that nature, we're happy to take any questions that you have. So you can feel free, there's a little, okay, so someone said, who uses Instagram? How do you use Instagram? So I said at the beginning that Instagram is my personal favorite, but I wanted to kind of start from the basics, and I feel like Facebook is a good place to start with that. Instagram is very image-based, and I personally really love the stories feature on a personal level for my own social media fun time. But I wasn't sure exactly the way that a legal firm might use Instagram because it is so image heavy. But if you can see a capacity where you could have a lot of images and post them, then I think, or not even images, but images could include like an infographic or something like that. So there is a place for it, but I just wasn't sure exactly where it fits into this conversation. I'm not sure if either of our panelists have any way in there, if you have Instagrams with your firms.
I do.
I could see Singleton practice fitting really well.
It's actually been very beneficial to use Instagram for my practice, and that, because, we don't market ourselves as, your standard firm, because just in what we do, it sort of allows us to kind of have a cool niche in that, we post pictures, we post, you know, funny videos of things that happen with clients, and we do have a lot of followers there. And what's really neat about Instagram too is that with all of the hashtags that we transport from our Facebook posts onto Instagram, we wind up getting followed by a lot of businesses, not just in the state of Maryland, but all over the country. So there's, one time we won a drug case, and so one of the hashtags we put in there was drug lawyer, and we got followed by a whole bunch of attorneys all throughout the country who represent criminals in drug offenses. And that's actually winding up with us getting business from people when they have, clients that happen to meander into our state. So it really does help to use Instagram, I think, if you're looking into not just building, your regular client base, but having that business to business relationship with different attorneys. I found it to be very helpful.
That's great. I'm so happy you're having a good experience with it. I could definitely see how that works with your setup with everything. Matt, did you have anything to add on the Instagram question, or should I move to the next one?
Only to say that it is a platform that we don't use for our practice, and it just on the priority depth chart, it fell off the chart because we only have so much time.
Right, that makes sense. And it's also a little bit less, I don't know if they've changed it, Singleton, since last time I was looking into it, because I did look into it for us for a little bit. And it's a lot harder to schedule content and things like that. So it does involve a little more special attention than some of the other ones.
Oh, it certainly does. And I will say, for people that are starting out, the scheduling is a really great idea. And I know it's one of the things that we struggle with in our practice is that, I'm pushing our associates and our staff to constantly post every time. If we've had, a client comes in and calls and says, "Oh, you did a great job," and we want to post something about that. We walk out of court after a dismissal, we want to post something about that. And a lot of the feedback I get from my staff is that, we're still working. Do you want us to stop working and post on, Facebook and Instagram? And so my response to them is that is working. And one of the things that I've done to help them with that, because our schedule really can be up in the air. One day we might have 5 cases in the morning and then 6 in the afternoon, and a lot of them could have good results. And we want to try and post about as many of them as we can. So what I've done is I've actually developed templates for what we post. And so it makes it a lot easier for the associates that work in my practice and my other staff to, whenever there's a time when they say, "Oh, this happened really quickly and I have 2 minutes to post something on Facebook," we have something that has all of the hashtags of everything that everyone we're trying to reach. It has a very simple call to action. It's very cheesy. It just says "ring sing," and gives us the phone number and the firm's website. So it's all there.
Right.
You literally have to copy, paste, and post, and then you're done. And that really cuts the time out for what we're doing. I think it still gets us, presenting every day like I want us to.
Yeah, and that's a great point about kind of changing the culture and getting staff involved like that. So I do want to be conscientious of people's time and just get to these last couple questions from Janice. Website, is it better to go local or with a larger company that handles nothing but lawyer websites? And then a follow-up, does the larger company have better ability to get your site to have better search engine optimization, that is, come up on first page of Google? So with your experience, Matt, you use Squarespace, which is kind of like a user-driven website building platform, and you pay, right?
Yeah, so we shopped around. Before the firm was going to launch, we looked at different providers, and there are a lot of different people that will design websites, different companies that will design websites for businesses generally, and then some just for, like the question asked, for lawyers. We found the upfront cost in the beginning of kind of the bigger, they'll do everything for you place to be cost prohibitive. So we went with Squarespace, where we basically created the content. But so we sacrificed some search engine optimization for cost. That was what we did. If all things being equal, I think that there are some really great local places that could do a really nice website and SEO for people, but it can be expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great insight.
Everything's a balance.
Yeah, everything is a balance. It's true. Everything in moderation.
Huh?
Are we going to say something else?
Oh, well,
No?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you, Matt. I was just going to say, I actually use a group. They're called Town Square, and they're not a very big practice, but they do the analytics and everything for us, because I was, honestly really computer illiterate as far as things like, the SEO stuff, but they did all of that stuff for us, and I found it was really helpful once, we got a site up and running for people to, because I think that people do judge, what your page looks like. And, you can see even in, your page, Matt, it looks like it's very professionally done. And I think that it is good, if you want to attract certain kinds of clients, to have, somebody that's actually managing that content in some way for you, if you can't do it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it does get a little complicated, for sure. And again, staff time and all of that sort of thing definitely plays a factor. And then for our last question, how do you handle client confidentiality about posting client results?
Ooh, that is a good question. So generally, what I always have to ask, if a client actually wants to be in a video or post something on Avo or on our Facebook page or Instagram, and we always get their consent. But even with that being said, whenever we always take, few videos and pictures, and we show them to the clients prior to posting anything on social media. And generally, everything that we do is pretty scripted, especially, in my line of work. There are definitely a lot of outtakes. We don't want somebody to say, oh, I should have been in jail today, but not Singleton got me out. We don't want something like that, because that can also just make us look unprofessional as well. So we generally have, a standard, script of what we want people to say. And generally it just goes along the lines of, we hired this practice, they came in and they got us a great result. Thank you. If you need an attorney to get a great result, ring sing, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We try to keep people limited to what they say. That way, the only reason that we even like having clients in videos is that it shows that there are real people that we are helping. But past that, we don't want them to get into the history of their cases or anything that's involved. So generally, other than, saying that we got a great result, that's all anybody will ever know.
Yep. And we have, when we post, we don't post client results exactly, but we'll post what we call like a good story. And with that, we always change the client's name. And when the client does their, when they're working with the attorney, part of the process is asking them if they want to opt into having their story shared with a pseudonym attached to their name. So and also for photos and videos, like if I go to a utility bill clinic or something like that and I'm taking photos, I always come with a big stack of photo releases, and I have a conversation with all of the clients and all of the attorneys beforehand, make sure they understand what they're signing on to, they sign it if they want to, and then I only take pictures of those people. So it's kind of just like built into the way that we do things, but I should have mentioned that earlier.
We've added to our retainer as well about the potential for publicity, and we don't take photos or videos generally of clients, but we will publicize certain cases either when they're filed or when there's a result. But we get everyone's we do it in the retainer stage and then get permission before posting as well.
Yeah.
And
So
I think on the civil side, we also have to, because a lot of the good results come with a confidentiality provision, that I think you have to then tell your clients and really work with them that they can't, that yes, please go on Avvo and say we did a nice job, but please don't mess with your settlement, and don't say, like, whoa, we got blank amount of dollars, and it's like, no, you agreed
right.
to say that. So, you don't want to have your clients inadvertently hurt themselves so that you can have a nice Avvo rating.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think we're just about out of time, but these were really great questions from a lot of different angles. So I really appreciate that, your participation and just being here today on this weird, snowy, rainy day. So I'm going to be sending out, like I said, the recording as well as the slides from today. So when I do that, you'll have my email through that process. And if you have any further questions or things we didn't get to today, you can feel free to reply to me. I'm happy to answer any questions via email. But thank you all so much. And I'm going to end the webinar now.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God, thank you for helping. It was great to have you.